Welcome back. This is Dr. Jonathan Ellerby with another live 12 at 12. It is April the 21st, 2020, the unforgettable year. And today we're going to continue to expand on a theme we started to explore yesterday in a talk that I think if you didn't see it, I'd love you to see it because it's actually, without exaggeration or gimmick, it is the most important relationship concept that I guess that I've ever discovered or learned or taught or shared. That was yesterday's. And one of the core principles was that when we are struggling with a tension, a conflict, a challenge, a growth opportunity, whatever you want to call it, within a relationship of any kind, starting with the we consciousness will always create a fertile ground for the respect, the nurturing, the honoring of each involved me consciousness. But when a time of change or learning or healing is upon a relationship, whether it's romantic or family, community, countries, whatever, if you start with the me consciousness, what do I need, what do I want, then there is a built-in energy that will sabotage the success of the we consciousness. So, it's a crash course in what you missed yesterday. But what I'd like to do is take a little breath, slow down, and get ready for what we're going to do today. If you have not met me before, I'm Dr. Jonathan Ellerby. You can learn more about me by exploring my Facebook page, Jonathan Ellerby, PhD, or you can go to my website and you will find my bio and other information, including, today is the day I have launched my free book. And this is actually a real book. It's not a gimmick book or a sales book. It is a book. And it's called Spiritual Experience, and it is filled with true stories of spiritual experience, spiritual practice around the world, and what those kinds of experiences can offer to each of us, whether we're pursuing healing, wholeness, a fuller experience of life, enlightenment. It's all in there, and it is literally totally free. So you can find a link on Facebook or my homepage. I think that's enough for now. Let's take a breath and begin. Let the first breath or two just be kind of a sigh, settling in. Feel your body slowing down. Imagine your mind growing quiet, opening. Your heart growing still and opening as your awareness travels in to the silent center. Really focusing on the exhale, long, slow, exaggerated exhale, as long and slow as that breath can be. And then a natural, fresh, invigorating breath in through the nose. And feel a sense of calm growing within you from the inside out. And as you enter this stillness and this silence in yourself, I'd like to share a reading by Nelson Mandela. It's a kind of prayer that affirms our power to embrace the me over the we over the me. Whether the struggle is between me and those who have offended me, or between me, my people, my community, my culture, and those that have oppressed us. All this lives within this beautiful, beautiful passage and the heart of this beautiful man. Shortly after being released from more than 22 years of imprisonment for nothing more than his political beliefs in the freedom and dignity of all people, he wrote, "The time for the healing of wounds has come. The time to build is upon us. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. There is no easy road to freedom. None of us acting alone can achieve success. We must therefore act together as a united people for reconciliation, for nation building, and for the birth of a new world. And as you hear those words, isn't it astonishing how what comes from the deepest place within each of us is for all of us, and it's for all times. Here, this very poignant speech, which was given in South Africa at the end of apartheid, is exactly the same thing we need to hear today. And so to expand on this concept of me to we, and what it means to live from this place, I want to explore, well, to be truthful, I want to explore something that my daughter shared with me. Now, if you don't know me, my daughter is going to be 3 years old in 2 days. And so she said this to me this morning. We were playing outside. And I'm going to tell you what she said a little later. But what it awakened was this realization, or maybe this clearer explanation, that nothing that is of significance or importance in your life or mine is ever lost. Nothing of any true lasting significance can ever be taken from you. And when you give from your heart, when you give freely, then that which you have is actually expanded. It is not diminished. I'm reminded of the famous analogy in Plato's cave. Now, I mentioned my daughter. I'm not talking about Plato, the modeling clay. I mean Plato, the philosopher. And many of you have heard this story or metaphor, analogy, allegory. In short, he talks about how in life it is as though we were living in a cave, and that between us and the mouth of the cave is a fire. Maybe a fire to warm us, maybe the fire of spirit. It necessarily doesn't matter for this particular moment. But the idea is that the fire casts a shadow, our shadow, on the wall of the cave opposite the opening. And the idea is that this is like our lives, that we are all living a narrower version of ourselves, a narrower consciousness within ourselves, that we mostly have not woken up to the true expansiveness of our nature, the true capacity of our awareness. And as such, life, like a cave, feels closed in. It feels limited to what we can touch, what we can see, what we can measure, and even what we have. And that our stories about our life and who is with us are not stories based on the true nature of things, but these distorted, reflected shadows of life. That the fire is casting, as you know, these moving, kind of flickering, strangely shaped images of ourselves on this irregular surface. And in the same way, our vision of who we are, what we are, who our neighbors are, who our friends are, who our partners are, culturally and politically, that they're all distorted because we're looking with a narrow view. But more than that, what Plato points us towards is that there is something more essential, that there is a truth to who we are that we can wake up to. Now, some people eventually called this the Platonic form of things, and we don't need to get into that today. But the idea is that there is a way of seeing and being that is distorted because it is based on a finite, limited, and heavily filtered view of the world. And then there is one that realizes the way things really are. And the way things really are, as you know, as you sense, as you long to embrace, is interconnected, united, that all things are ultimately one thing. And when we integrate that into our daily life and consider that in our relationships in particular, when it comes to the idea of giving, receiving, losing, and gaining, we start to see that our vision has been distorted. When we truly love, there is never loss. There is change of form. There is change of relationship. And yes, there is change of life. When people we love leave this earth body, we do not lose them. We do not lose the love. But they do change form. And that relationship moves through a transition. When my father passed so long ago, I remember that same night that he departed, leaving our family and our family home. That same night he took his final breath and left. We could feel it, almost see his departure. It was only an hour later I found myself walking the dogs, his favorite pastime. And there in the park, in the sunset, without even really thinking of it, conjuring it, I could feel him everywhere. I could feel him with me, and in some ways more than I'd ever felt him before. In fact, tomorrow's his birthday, now that I think about it. Tomorrow's his birthday. And I realized in that moment, at that young age, that I wasn't losing my dad. I was losing the form of my dad that I loved, that I was used to, that I wanted to have with me always. I lost a way of being with my dad, but I did not lose my dad. And in the same way as we lose things right now because of this pandemic, we lose our roles and we lose stuff we have. And in some cases, we lose money and jobs. And in some cases, we lose health and family members. We must remember that when our vision of life is rooted in the eye of the heart, Chante Ishta, what Black Elk called the eye of the heart, then we see things as they truly are, united. And we know that nothing is ultimately lost, that all things live within us, that all deep experiences of meaning are eternal, and that all that we love and believe we are losing is ultimately not only with us, but returned to us in spirit. And the sad thing is that the belief in loss, the belief in deficit and poverty creates more of the same. That when we affirm our interconnection, our abundance, we open our hearts and minds to possibility. We release the shame of giving. We release the shame of receiving. What my daughter said to me earlier, this was amazing actually. So I had given her a little stuffed animal the other day, a tiger, that I actually had when I was a baby, a child. So let's just say this tiger has been around in my family for over 40 years. And it was my son's for a time, and now I gave it to my daughter. And she came into her bedroom, and I was preparing, her clothes for the day. And out of the blue, she said, "Daddy," it doesn't sound like something a 3-year-old would say, but she said, "Daddy, I want to thank you for giving me that baby tiger." And I said, yes, now it's your tiger. And she corrected me and she said, no, now it's our tiger. And something in that moment opened my heart in a way that I really hadn't even understood myself before. That when I give something away, it's not just an expansiveness through my own generosity. It is literally an expansiveness of myself. What I give away is not the magnanimous movement from mine to yours. That is the old paradigm that gets us stuck, that keeps us burdened, because we can regret, we can doubt, we can wonder what they'll do with it. But as my tiny 3-year-old daughter said, when I give something to you, it becomes ours. It's still mine. It's just now you have it. And it may live at your home for the rest of your life. But it's an extraordinary way to see the world, that I live inside through everything I give. If I donate to a charity, if I donate to the environment, if I help somebody out, if I give something away, it's not that at all. It's not giving away. It's expansion. I'm expanding. With everything that appears to be given, I expand. And nothing is ever lost. What an extraordinary way to live. And yet, this is who we truly are. So our time's up once again. We got to wrap up. And I want to close by reading Nelson Mandela's words once again, because it shows that this kind of generosity, this kind of collective thought, collective mind, is not just for the easy moments. It's not just for the people we like and love. It's something that every one of us are capable of in every moment, but it's a lived experience. And you will only know it and trust it in your heart. And the first time you give without thinking, the first time you affirm and trust that what you lose is never lost, and then what you give expands you, there may be some fear and risk, but time will teach you and time will tell. So thank you for being with me today. Don't forget to get your free copy of the book, Spiritual Experience. It is a wonderful adventure into the nature of spirit and spirituality and the human journey. And it's on my website and Facebook. It's free. It's very simple. With that, let's close our eyes and close with this simple, powerful affirmation by Nelson Mandela. The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The time to build is upon us. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. There is no easy road to freedom. But none of us acting alone can achieve success. The freedom of one is the freedom of all. We must therefore act together as a united people for reconciliation, for nation building, and for the birth of a new world. So thank you. Have a beautiful day. I love you, and I'll see you soon.